Hello, friends. Happy Feeding Tube Awareness Week, and welcome to our session on advocating like a boss. My name is Melanie Dimmitt. I'm the founder and editor of the world's only tube feeding magazine, The Blend. I'm also the mother of an almost 10-year-old kiddo who has profound physical disability and has relied on a gastrostomy tube. I always say that wrong. Gastrostomy tube G-Tube for the past 5 years, which is a mere fraction of the time that one of my guests here today has relied on tubes. Olivia Stead has been relying on feeding tubes since she was born with several health challenges. So she's been tube feeding her whole life and is currently training to be a nurse. She's also a master of self-advocacy and we'll have much to say on this topic very soon. We are also joined by Eliana Joseph, who, like me, is a caregiver in the tube feeding space, and her son Luke has a rare genetic muscular condition, which is why he needs his G tube for nutritional support. Eliana is also a huge advocate in our community, and she represents Tubie Fun, Australia's first tube feeding accessory shop. We are here today to talk about advocating, whether that be self-advocating or advocating for a loved one who tube feeds. And we have both of those experiences here with us today. And together, we're going to share some of what we've learned about advocating, including practical tips for how to get better at it, because it takes time and practice. I remember when my son was first diagnosed with quadriplegic cerebral palsy when he was 6 months old. I remember thinking, okay, I need to be an advocate, but I didn't know what that was. I thought I'd need to go and make a sign, paint some really strong words on that sign, and go and rally outside of a building or something like that. What I didn't understand, and what I was really surprised to find, was that I didn't need to seek out reasons to advocate as a caregiver to my son. Those reasons came to me. And often they came from really well meaning friends and family members. More often, they came from medical professionals working in the system that's actually designed to support us. And they came in moments where I knew something wasn't right for my son and I needed to speak up. And on that note, I'm going to kick off our conversation by asking both of our guests here today to tell us about a moment when they realized they had to speak up and let us know what was at stake. Olivia, you go first. When was the moment you realized you had to speak up?
Oh, I think there's so many moments throughout my life, but one that really sticks with me is when I was about 15 or 16, a lot of my congenital malformations or birth defects started growing back. And I was having all these symptoms and we didn't know what was happening. And I went to a few different doctors and they said, oh, you're just not paying enough attention when you're swallowing, or it's this, or you're just a bit stressed. It's maybe you've got boyfriend problems. And I knew within myself that something was really not quite right. And that I felt that I had to advocate for myself to be heard and find the right people to help me with that.
Yeah. Oh, I can't even imagine what that is like to be. I mean, it's gaslighting, isn't it? That's what we call it, and how much you've been through and how much you've learned from that experience. Thank you so much again for being here and sharing with us. Eliana, what is a moment that comes to mind for you when you were like, I really have to speak up right now?
Well, it would have been one of the most probably traumatic moments in our journey. Luke was quite new, so we didn't know what was happening with him. No, we didn't have a diagnosis. No one else knew what was going on. So all the doctors were kind of passing it off, blaming everybody else. They were telling us that ENT needed to do more, and a lot of people were telling us that. So we went to ENT and they were saying, no, we don't. We've done everything we need to. There's nothing more. And we were like, but everybody is telling us that there has to be something here. Please, can you please do something else? And this woman at the time, I could tell she didn't want to, and she was doing it just to keep us happy and quiet. And she said, yep, let's book you in for a scope. She books the scope in, and it's a few weeks later, I turn up, and as you know, there's so much emotional lead up into going into a little procedure like that. And it was just a little baby, and it was a lot lead up. I get to reception. I said, we're here for our scope. Sorry, there's no appointment for you. And the lead up into everything, the not knowing what was going on with Luke at the moment. And at that time, he was really sick. He was struggling so badly. We needed help and we needed answers. And I just broke down then and there. And I built up all the courage and they took us through and we went in and I saw this woman and I was crying and I was like, hold it together. And I just caught my breath and I just said to her, It's not good enough. Luke's more important than this, and he needs help, and he needs help now. And they did the scope then and there, and they did find something at that time too. So I was like, thank you. Thank you very much.
You could be smug then. It's that mother's intuition, isn't it? And you've just gotta trust it. Olivia, we've all had a moment where we didn't speak up and regretted it later. What have you learned from one of those times?
I think the biggest takeaway that I've learned is that if something doesn't feel right to me, that it probably isn't, and that I'm listening to myself. For many points throughout my life and my journey, there have been times where I've been made to doubt myself, or there's been constraints and it's been pushed to the side, all of those things. I think experiences that a lot of us would share. Um, but I'm starting to learn and remind myself that if I feel like something's just a bit off, even if I can't put my finger on it, it's, my concern is enough to get it followed up, and my concern is justified, and that is enough for me to be listened to as well by healthcare practitioners.
Yes. Have you ever been wrong? Has your gut instinct ever been wrong?
No, and I keep waiting for the day where I'm like, no, it'll be nothing, and it's never nothing.
You're right every time. What does that tell us? We
And
have
it's
to
probably
listen.
been hundreds of times now, but I still have that thought in my head of, what if this is the time where it's actually nothing and I'm crazy and I'm making things up? But it never is.
There you go. You heard it here. Eliana, so often health professionals, they can be amazing allies, but sometimes they're also major roadblocks. What is your secret? And I need to know this for me as well, for navigating difficult conversations in medical spaces.
Oh, this one's a tricky one because I don't think that there is necessarily a secret. I think a lot of it boils down to personality types as well. Like for me, I'm a very, and always have been, a shy, a quiet, non-confrontational person. So this hasn't come easy for me. It's taken a long time to learn and to build my confidence and be in that medical space. Because, like I said, this is all new territory for me. So it took a long time for me to find my feet and find what I actually was able to do and stand up and say. Yes, I think it just takes time and confidence.
It does. And sort of learning that, I mean, I always feel bad saying this, but the medical professional is not always like when it comes to your kid, you actually do know best.
That's right. Well, a lot of the time as well, which I have felt, particularly with that case I was talking about before, is that Luke often, I could tell that he was seen as a number and not a child. And a lot of the time, I felt that we were seen as this baby that would come into the office, and then that's it. This is what he looks like on paper. But it seemed to be forgotten that we have to take this child home and we have to live with this life 24/7. We don't just see you for the 20-minute appointment. This is our life.
Oh.
And there's so much more that goes on there too. But also, in saying that, though, there are some really incredible professionals that do see your child like that. We have some on our team who are absolutely amazing, and they care so much to the point where they have stepped in and advocated on Luke's behalf for me. They've said to me, no, we're going to deal with this problem. We're doing it. And they go and they handled it, some issues for me all by themselves. And I thought it's just amazing to have those people on your team.
Yeah, you find the right ones and it changes everything. And often those right ones are there to learn with you. They'll
Oh,
say if they don't
100%.
know, they're like, let's figure this out together. And I think there's some
Yes.
wonderful examples of professionals that are also doing educational videos for Aussie Inc. that do go and
Yes.
check out in the catalog. Olivia, it must be, I imagine, so different. Eliana and I are there for our kids, and it's really terrifying a lot of the time, but we're not actually going through this. We're not actually sick. We're not as exhausted as our child probably is. When you are exhausted and overwhelmed, how do you find the energy to keep advocating for yourself?
Yeah, I think a lot of the preparation around advocacy in a healthcare space comes before you step into that hospital or that clinic. For
Mhm.
me, certainly planning and then building a network of people, doctors, nurses who are on your side, because they can just be gold, like you've said. When
Yeah.
you've got good people who have your child or yourself at the front and center of what they're doing, sometimes you just need to lean on them. And also, sometimes I find that the weight of what they're saying, even if we're both saying the same thing, can be a lot stronger if I find that I'm having a hard time convincing or advocating for something that I know that I need. Sometimes having another healthcare practitioner, as much as I wish it wasn't that way,
Yeah.
just carries a bit more weight. So I think that. I think as well, having the moment to phone a friend, and that'll be a different person for everyone. But for me, my parents are always across what's going on, ready to advocate. If it wasn't my parents, it might be my partner or a friend who was really close. So yeah, leaning on all those people and not being afraid to lean on them, I think, has been my saving grace in times of exhaustion.
Yes. Yay for the allies.
I think I would also add that a lot of hospitals have their own advocacy services and advocacy avenues. So, one thing that I've been learning about recently has been services like the patient and carer escalation service. So, you can call yourself an emergency call if you feel things are really, really bad. And that's been really empowering just to know that it's there. But they also have often a lot of hospitals advocates that can sit next to you and advocate for your best interests, which is something I'd never heard about before until I came across them at work.
Wow. So do you just ask like one of the nurses or doctors to get you one?
Yeah, and they can come. I think some of them only work business hours, but they'll come and advocate for you with doctors or during procedures as well, just having some company, all of those things.
And they'll do what you tell them to do?
I haven't found that out yet. I haven't actually needed one, but I would hope so.
But they're
And
there. That is so, so valuable to know. I love that.
and they keep it away in a little corner of the hospital that they don't talk about. But I think it's a valuable service to know about for Adelaide and where I am. That sits under the consumer experience team. So if you get in contact with them, they also have things.
Gosh, it's those things that are hidden. It's like when I found out at Sydney Kids you can get food vouchers for local cafes. One of the
Mm.
other parents on the ward told me, and I was like, what? How did we not know this?
How are you keeping this secret in?
Yes, this gold dust. Um, Eliana, I know you will have found this. Sometimes I hear myself when I'm talking to medical professionals that aren't really getting what we need. And it's a different voice. Like I turn into this, like, not horrible, but very strong. It's a different voice to who I normally am and how I would talk, for myself probably. Has there been a moment where you've done something as, advocating for Luke where you've been like, whoa, and like really surprised yourself?
Well, yeah, it just goes back to that first experience that I was saying before. It surprised me so much because, like I said, I'm not that type of person,
Yeah.
and that was the first time, and it was the only time that I've really had to kind of stand up and say it straight up. Um, I haven't, like, thankfully, had to be that forceful, and since, like, there have been moments, but that moment definitely kind of was a bit of a turning point for me because it had to be done. If I didn't do it, Luke's not going can't do it. I literally said to her, I am his voice
Yeah.
and he deserves better care than this. So I think that was a bit of a stepping stone for me for later on in his journey, for me to stand up to other people and turn around and just kind of say, no, this is not right. This is not acceptable. And Luke deserves better than this. Yeah.
And it's so like, Arlo, my son, he's non-speaking. Like if I
Yes.
don't speak up for him, then who the hell will? And it's really interesting. And I think it's particularly challenging for women because a lot of us are people pleasers. We're raised to make people happy and not cause trouble.
Yeah.
And this is this huge societal brick wall that we're like hammering against. But I've
Yes.
had to be okay with certain medical people not liking me.
Well, that's what I meant before as well about personality types. Like, I know that there are people who can just go in there and absolutely nail it. I'm not one of those people, and I know that there are a lot of others who aren't. It does not come naturally to advocate, and we have to learn those skills. And as well, when I went into all of this with Luke, like I've never set foot in a children's hospital beforehand, and I had so much respect for these doctors, which I still do. But I respected them that their level of knowledge and that they knew it and their answer was correct and that we went in and we did as we were told. I quickly learnt that that's not necessarily the case with all professionals. Some, yes, absolutely amazing. Others, like I said before, they see Luke as a number on their list of patients to see for the day, and where it's so much more involved than that. But you learn that with the experience.
Yeah, 100%. I want to
Yeah.
ask you both one more question before we head into some rapid fires. Olivia, you can go first. If you have one piece of advocacy advice that you would like people to take away from this, what would it be?
I think that if you feel that something isn't right, then something is wrong, and that you can trust yourself on that to advocate. And I would also add that you have, sorry, this is not turning into one piece of advice, but
Fine.
you have rights in healthcare space. You're allowed to say no to things, you're allowed to advocate for things, you're allowed to take up space. And we have ourselves or our child as the forefront of their quality of life. And that's, I think, what it is it's about our quality of life, not our disease. And so, yeah.
Yes. Cheers to that. Eliana, what do you got?
Yeah, I've got look, advocating, it's not us being confrontational or being rude. It's literally standing up as a parent for your child and for their rights and their needs. I've spoken to a few parents who said, "Oh, I'm worried about hurting their feelings or looking like the bad guy." And at the end of the day, it does not matter because who is important? Your child. And that is what is important at the end of the day. Their voice and their needs being met, not someone's feelings.
Yes. Love it. All right. Ready for some rapid fires? Olivia, I'll come to you first. You're both going to answer this. What is the one word that medical professionals use that really gets your goat? Mine is patient. When Arlo gets called a patient, especially when he's not in hospital. Olivia, what's yours?
I think anything around resources and using up resources is just gets on my goat. I'm not here to use your resources. I'm here to live and receive a healthcare service from your healthcare service. So anything around that is, again, it's feeling like a number, a bit like Eliana said, and I'm not. I'm a person that deserves care.
Love it. Elle, what's yours?
Failure to thrive.
Oh, shut up.
I hate it. Like, can't they think of something better than that? Like, sorry, you're terrible at being alive. Like, can we choose something different? Reword it? Anything? Yeah,
Yeah, I think that
that's
hits a
mine.
lot of us right in the heart. Olivia, I'm about to use your hated word. What's your number one resource for advocacy, inspiration, and guidance? Forgive me for using that word.
That's okay. I think any clinicians, any doctors, nurses, whoever that is for you, that are on your side, that have that best interest, we all kind of know someone that just gets it and wants what's best for you and is going in that same direction. I think they're the people I lean on. I also lean on a psychologist, and having that has actually really helped my advocacy skills because I've learned and had that validation that I can put my big girl pants on and set up a boundary and not be liked as well. So having that validation has been really good as well. So I think any of those people, I wish there was a website where I could just say, go here. But
Yeah, so good. Eliana, what's your number one resource?
For me, other parents.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have found so much support through the social media community. I've made so many friends online and we chat, we share our experiences. They'll tell me what they've done, and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Or like, yeah, just their different experiences. And then I will share mine and they will give me their advice as well. They'll say, no, that's not cool. Don't do that. Or they'll offer me suggestions on what's available and things like that. It's just, they've been so incredibly helpful to bounce ideas back off and also give me a bit of confidence when I'm unsure about whether something's right or not. And I just need to run it by someone else who gets it. And they go, yeah, actually, you're not right. No, that's not good enough. This is what it should look like.
Yes, so good. And I completely agree. I think that's my number one resource as well. Olivia, if you never had to advocate for yourself ever again, if you never had to use that energy, that brain space for advocacy, what would you do instead with that time and brain space?
well, hopefully soon I'll be working as a nurse and advocating for other people. But if I never had to deal with healthcare again, I would be living on a goat farm with a whole bunch of Angora goats in some regional community, and I'd have a cat. And I just live my best life with my goats and my cat.
Oh, I love it. We
The
have to
little
make this
known
happen.
fact, but I did agriculture throughout my high school and education, and so I've bonded quite deeply with Angora goats.
That is not what I was expecting, but I adore it. It's a lovely, lovely visual.
And just like
El,
carefree.
yes, carefree with your goats on a hill. El, what would you do? Was it think if we didn't have to deal with all the medical admin advocacy, what would you do with that time?
Yeah, yeah, that's such a tricky question. If I wasn't in this medical world, I'd probably be back teaching. Tried doing it, couldn't do it with Luke. But I just feel like if I didn't have that side of things, my nervous system and mental health would be such a
Yeah,
calmer space. And I feel like I'd be able to just be more mentally present for my kids
yeah,
and just be there and just spend more quality time with them rather than constantly running around caring for them all the time, particularly Luke.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I think just to be more present would
yeah,
be nice.
yeah. Well, he is hoping that working with those amazing medical professionals who do get it and are our
Yes.
allies, that we don't have to be pushing so hard and advocating so much into the future. I think with the time I'd save from having to call the NDIS every day, following up on supplies and things like that, I would possibly start to meditate, which my therapist is constantly telling me to do, and I never feel like I have time for it. So I think that would be my thing. Thank you both so much for sharing your wisdom and your advice. A little bit of extra info here. This is where you can all follow Amazing Eliana and Olivia on Instagram. Both of these women are featured in the latest issue of the Blend magazine. There she is, issue 5, which celebrates stories and advice from the tube feeding community. You can get your hands on this beauty at Mag Shop or via iSubscribe, or you can read it online at theblendmag.com. Thank you, dear viewers, for joining us here today. I trust that we've left you with a few tips on how to really tune into your gut and get what you need for your child or yourself. That is all from us. Thank you both so much again for having this conversation with me, and happy Feeding Tube Awareness Week, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.